Hey everybody, this is Silverspook, and this is the Silverspook video on the dev updates for March 7th on Neofeud 2, as well as Resident Evil 9 slash Requiem reaction, and some other games, or at least one. So, yeah, anyways, hope everybody's doing well. It is Neofeud sale time, so if you need to feel better, um, um, if you like adventure games, you'll and cyberpunk games and science fiction adventure retro games, run on down to the Neofeud bake stand, and buy some handcrafted, mostly, well, definitely all handcrafted. No Gen AI was used. Neofeud was out in 2017. It is the game that supports everything that we do here at the Silverspook Cooperative, of course. And I'm the dev of that game and the sequel. So if you want to help us finish this Neofeud 2, consider grabbing the first one. If you want to get up to speed on what is happening in Neofeud 2 when you do play it, also grab the first one if you haven't yet. If you have the first one, try and open it. I'm trying to. We're all in this together. Like Claire and Leon. I'm sorry, Grace and Leon. I forget what year. Sometimes I forget what year it is. Is it Resident Evil? Is it Tenant Malicious Resident Evil, or is it Denizen Aggressive? I can't remember the names of these games, and I can't remember who's in them. Anyway, it's Grace and Leon, I think, in this one, right? Okay. Anyways, we'll get to it. But yeah, so. But Neofeud 2 is a game that is coming soon. Still, release date is March sometime. At this point, like, to really, I might have to put out the version of it that is, I don't have time to polish every single thing I want to polish. But there you can never really polish everything. You're gonna be stuck. We're talking around. We're actually part. We have some Japanese ancestry here in the Silverspook Cooperative. We have some ancestors that pounded katanas 10,000 times. Not unlike Capcom artists. Working on Chris Redfield's, but okay, maybe not his butt, but they spent a lot of time working on Resident Evil, and perfecting that game. Like, they make Toyotas, So we're actually, my grandma is actually. Well, I should say, it's actually from Japan. So we have like perfectionist tendencies. And one thing we're talking about is, and one thing I have to really, it's just like, this is actually a good example of that, which is like, if you really want to, because, we would, in Japanese, life ways, one of them is like mastering the art of making katanas, which takes many, 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 many hours of blacksmithing to produce one, right? But this has to be a perfect blade that can cut a leaf floating down a gentle stream, with the katana simply placed in the water. A leaf floating down a stream should be sliced in half just by the force of the water pushing it, right? Long story short, Neofeud 2 will never be as perfect as I want it to be. So that's part of the reason why it takes a little bit longer. But now I need to get it out. So it's like we're definitely in the finish the game mode, that's an important lesson in game dev. And then also, I would say, in most creative projects, is you must start and then you must finish. I remember William Gibson. I remember, like, I think I was at William Gibson is a cyberpunk writer, of course, author of Neuromancer, and that's not the only person that said that. But he said, a very important part. Many people start books. Many people begin painting. Many people initiate sketching. Many people, start a napkin sketch. They start drawing in a tablet. Many people start coding something. I mean, people actually coded instead of this, BSing themselves into believing they're some kind of rock star programmer like Elon, right? Which is, I think they call that vibe coding now, which is to say not. And but you might start making a game. You might start writing a book. a lot of people do that, but the finishing part, it's a whole other thing. It's a whole other thing, and that's something you got to learn. You have to learn that once you start putting the projects out, right? Which is that like not everybody finishes things, and actually finishing things is a whole other skill. Also, Tim Kaine, the creator of Fallout, one of the founders of Fallout, talks about that as well, which is John Romero is definitely a dev that, of course, I've looked up to as another fellow indigenous dev. He's actually Yaqui and Cherokee. I'm Native Hawaiian, and he made like hundreds of games before he made Doom, right? So I have to follow that lesson before I spiral too far off of this topic and finish Neofeud 2 on time in March. Like I said, and I was like really struggling yesterday because I was like, oh my gosh, this sound it's too soft or too loud, and I can just keep that's one thing, like if I make a post mortem or like in situ mortem, like dying in place, that's what that means in Latin. I'm dying in place because I'm having excruciating back pain and finger pain because I was pointing and clicking too hard last night, point and shooting in the Doom mod Supplice. We'll get to it. But one of the things I would say in my post-mortem is that it's really like one thing I notice is if I focus on one particular thing, you even like just listening to the voice acting or listening to like the levels of the music and the sound, or just looking at the timing of an animation, I can easily get sucked into that and like spend too much time on any one thing. So one thing I've been doing is trying to like make a long checklist. Every single day I make like a long checklist of all these tasks that needs to be done. And then there's the bigger goal. I always have to like put that at the front. I only started doing this recently in the last 6 months or so. Put like really when I'm like, actually like writing it down, like it's like having almost like not the president, but like the executive, you need like, you need like in Resident Evil sense, you need your, I was going to say Albert Wesker. You don't really want an evil person that's working for a biotech, imperial, mega greedy corporation that's destroying the world for, hegemony, like a bio fallout. So you don't really need an Albert Wesker, but you need somebody that's the eternal like executor. That's my star card. But you need somebody that's like you need to like be able to like have like the manager, that's in your head. That's like, okay, that this needs to be done. Like you can't spend all the time on that because you have to move on to the next thing. Because look, you have these other 10 things. If you spend 50% of your time on one thing out of 10, you're gonna have a tiny amount of time to devote to the rest of them. It's like, so anyway. So that's something that's, and not everybody has that problem per se, but like, I have like OCD perfectionist tendencies. They call it Bushido head. In Hawaii, there's also like really specific names for this kind of stuff too. Anyway, so that's my various of my family members have been like that. So including my parents or my dad, and then we have that. We just, it has to be done right. Anyway, long story short, still gonna get the game out in March. I'm gonna look at the chat before I get too lost in this talk. I didn't get that much. I went to bed really late. I went to bed like almost 3 because I was trying to stay on the target. That just trying to make sure the game gets done. So I'm gonna check the chat now. Let's pop this out here. What is up, Street Cat Love? Thanks for stopping by. I have a separate chat computer. Let me open that up. Okay, but anyways, so the game is still coming in sometime in March. I'm not sure when. Don't have a set date yet. We don't have exactly a set date yet. I need Leon and Grace to jump into my laptop and kill this. They're good at killing viruses, right? Like the T virus and the H virus. I'm not sure what it is in Requiem, but it's not a virus. They have to fight the antivirus software that keeps screaming at me in the the chat monitoring computer. Anyways, um, there we go. Anyways, how's it going, Camera Internet? Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, feel free. Of course, these YouTube Saturday streams, I'm trying to be more interactive, so feel free to ask more questions because this is supposed to be like a dev streams slash Q&A slash updates, announcements about the game, because this is a Silver Spook Games company cooperative. So anyway, but yeah, Neofeud 2 is this is another scene from it. I'm going to share a little bit more of the most recent work on it in a bit. But yeah, this scene is one I just finished right now, and this scene is about. We're like 2/3 to 3/4 of the way through the game. I'm 2/3 to 3/4 of the way through Neofeud 2 finalization. There have been multiple testers that have got through all of the alpha up to the halfway point with no errors, serious errors. One of the testers got through without. It's amazingly one of the testers got through half of the game, which is a long game. I estimate this game is probably like 20 hours. It's about, especially if you play it thoroughly, and it's about twice the length of Neofeud 1. And somebody got halfway through Neofeud 2 and got through it without who doesn't play video games regularly, without getting into a single crash and without asking for a single assistant, not without asking for help. Because I was like, maybe people might get stuck on a puzzle because it is a point-and-click puzzle adventure game. And so nobody asked for it. So this person didn't ask for any help, didn't get into a single crash, and doesn't play video games. She does does writing and podcasting and hosting, and stuff. Plays pinball. That's if she plays a game, it's pinball at bars. Does hosts bingo and hosts parties and weddings and stuff, and plays pinball at bars. But she got all the way through Neofeud 2 without having to ask for any help. So I'm not saying everybody will be able to do that, but just that's a good sign, which means that I won't have to do too much. I feel like I suspect I won't have to do too much extra work on it. It's just in the sense of, having to, oh my gosh. So, because sometimes you need this needs more tips, this needs more signposting, so people don't get completely stuck, or this part broke, this caused an error. So I'm waiting for those kind of reports. I'm sure somebody's going to find some people who play the games really thoroughly, real pro QA tester types. I'm sure, I guarantee I know, because I've done it myself. If you really try to, you can find a way to cause maybe some kind of glitch. I don't know if you can cause it to crash. Yeah, but the thing is, most people are not gonna be out to try to crash a game. I'm gonna try to also figure out a way so that people can if you do crash, because there's some crashes in Neofeud 1. I know I haven't got to fix every single bug there. It's really I just have a limited. If I had a team of people, I would have all the people work on. If I had 5 Silver Spooks, one of them would just work on updating Neofeud 1. You know what I mean? And then one would just be marketing, and another Silver Spook would do art for Neofeud 2, and another Silver Spook would program it and write Neofeud 2, and then another Silver Spook, or one each, and then one Silver Spook would just devote their whole life to music and metal horns and rocking out and playing guitar solos, and another Silver Spook would also play guitar solos, but it would also Mega Die in the Megadeth inspired game that is and Guar inspired game that is Valfaris and Slain, because I don't have time to play games and also be a musician and also be a writer and art. It's just too much, you know what I'm saying? So one way I make it not too much, one way I slightly make the unhinged, ungodly amount of work that I have to do slightly less godly or ungodly, is I just gotta not work on Neofeud 1 right now. Or I promote Neofeud 1, but I can't do too much because I gotta finish Neofeud 2. Another thing is, I know I'm supposed to finish Decolonators 2. There's not, It's take 9 years to finish Neofeud 2. If I took, it would take 15 years to finish Neofeud 2 if I did. You know what I'm saying? It would never. That's the kind of the theme I've been thinking about. Is like nothing will ever be done, because the thing is, once you finish the thing, the work actually begins after finishing it. A lot of the work actually begins after finishing the thing, which is like getting people to discover the thing. That's a whole other kind of worms. That's like, like G.I. Joe said, like G.I. Joe is incorrect. Making the thing and knowing how to make the thing is not half the battle. That's like 1/4 of the battle. The 3/4 of the battle is fighting against AI generated slop on Steam Next Fest. I shouldn't say that. But apparently there's been some AI games out there just in general. And Steam Next Fest, I did play a bunch of games, which is I found some interesting new games too in Steam Next Fest. I should have added it to the list. The Dungeon Experience by Paradigms, Jacob Jernick. I'll talk about it on another stream, because I've been following that game a long time. It's a indie game. But anyway, long story short, but like there's so many games coming out, right? And there is also, there's a problem with, there's always already shovelware. There's already kind of this like, games that are coming out that are not, this has been going on for decades, right? That's like half of Commander Sterling's, Sterling's content is just, for a while was just like, oh my gosh, there's like these games that, are just money grubbing, asset flip. These are called asset flips, like flipping an overpriced California house for even more money in a Ponzi pyramid scheme housing bubble. You just grab some assets and then you sell the game and you're just trying to make money without doing much effort, and so and now you have, there's lots of, certain large loser mockeries, right? I think that's what LLM stands for, of actual programming and software and art that can put out all kind of stuff. Anyway, so long story short, it's hard to get the games discovered. So that's a big problem. And then, so when you finish the game, then you got to put it out there, and then you figure out how hard that is. And then you spend 9 years. I spent 2.5 years working. I mean, literally, I spent 2.5 years working on Neofeud, and I spent 9 years promoting it. So, right? And like figuring out how to promote it. That's a whole other thing too. You don't know that until you don't know that until you reach that point, right? You write a book, right? And it takes you 2 months, 6 months, a year maybe. And then you spend the rest of your life trying to get people to discover the book that you wrote, and nobody cares about it. The thing is, most people, once you finish, see, the thing is finishing, like, not maybe 90% of people start something. Like 30% of people finish a thing. And then 1% of people or 10% of people, something like that, finish the thing and then learn the real lesson, which is like, how to actually do something interesting without a giant mega corporation that's complicit with the Epstein class. Right? That, because if the corporation promotes it, then that's a different thing. If you're working for a big, and this applies more to indie games and interesting projects that really matter. If you have if you're working at EA Games, if you're working at a triple-capitalist AAA game company like EA Games, like Assassinators, Credo, I don't know what kind of games they put out nowadays. If you're working at a huge game company, the corporation, right, will have prime placement. Like they'll have, P. Diddy or somebody. Or I just, I'm sorry. I was gonna say P. Diddy was gonna play the game live stream to the front page of Twitch, but I mean, maybe people are not too into it. They're gonna have some big celebrity, or they'll have like Hideo Kojima comment positively on it, or he'll just watch and see it. Maybe he'll just go and watch and see things of his own accord. But like they'll have like it'll show up, it'll have a movie tie-in, right? You have all the promotion you need if you're working for a big company. You don't need to promote it yourself. Discoverability and visibility is not a problem for a coder at, Activision or Nintendo, if they still have human employees and they're not completely exploded piles of, rotted silicon and Sam Altman's lost trillions, right? That everyone's shoving into the Techno King Torment Nexus. If there are game companies that haven't destroyed themselves by being such money grubbing piles of dirt, I mean, I think Capcom is still putting out games, which it seems like Capcom puts out games still. I'm actually wearing a Mega Man shirt, So you know, thanks to Holly for buying me that. By the way, I don't know if you can see that. So Capcom, they still I think they still put out games because people are playing this Resident Evil, and it doesn't seem to be. I have actually tried some of it, and so I mean, at least there's one company. I don't know too much. I haven't researched everything that I don't but all I know is like when I played it, it looks like as best as I have gotten into some Resident Evil Requiem, and that thing scared the shit out of me, man. Holy shit! It reminds me of like. Reminds me of being 12 years old on a CRT TV screen, awkwardly rotating my character in a 640 by 480 painting of the Spencer Mansion, and then oh my god, freaking crows bust through the window, and I'm trying to walk away from the zombies, and I can't figure out whether forward is forward. The camera, oh my gosh, that was actually one of the best parts of Resident Evil was the struggle of the controller. We were talking about yesterday in the Sewer Spook Copper. It's like the not necessarily jankiness. It's just like because it was 2.5D, because you couldn't render the whole background. It gave it this like there are these weird there's camera angles where the camera is looking down the hall and your character is walking towards the camera. And you can kind of hear, maybe you hear or maybe you don't hear the sound of a moan, and you're like, where? Somewhere in this vicinity is a zombie, but because of the camera angle, and it's just because like they couldn't render a 3D scene. They could only render a character and maybe like a little ribbon of ink and maybe the typewriter that you put the ink in, and then you type out, your Raccoon City stars. Police report. That's how you saved in Resident Evil. You had a limited number of saves, so everything about it, everything is very sparse. And we walk towards the camera, suddenly the zombie could bust out, like walk through the camera, and they start eating you immediately, right? So it had this weird, it's this weird, almost like PlayStation 1 era hardware limitation. I think that's actually one of the creativity is the mother of invention examples. So a good example, because the zombie will come through the camera. But it's kind of almost an accident of the limitations of the hardware, right? So you didn't want to just have a straight on painting every single time, right? Because you had a 3D character. But then to do that, right, you could change the camera angle. But then like to navigate through the world, you have to like guess, like, is my character, you have to look at a character that's pointing, and is my character going to shoot and hit the zombie or the zombie dog or the giant hopping reptile mutant bioweapon that can slash your head off with one, because you have to do all. It's like really hard to control, but which makes it scarier, right? Because you're freaking out because you're like, which way's up? Where's down? No, wait, stop! Stab the dog in the foot. Why are you stabbing so slow? Why do you stab like you're on tryptophan and you're also a sloth? Move faster. Move. Why can you only shoot while standing still? You can't run and shoot. Like, haven't you seen an action movie? Haven't you gotten in the chopper? Don't you have a chopper? You're freaking Resident Evil freaking action heroes. Look at that. You jumped out you can't, you're running, they're running while shooting, but when you're in the game, you have to like walk, or you can run a little bit and you got to stop and then slowly turn. You turn about as fast as a second hand on a clock. Tick, 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 and then the zombie's already eating you, right? Because you anyways, but Resident Evil 9 is, it definitely looks like really, I'm just going off about Resident Evil, but I think Resident Evil Requiem is definitely, it's like watching a TV show. It's like, wow, I didn't realize this. Like, I haven't played a lot of AAA games, and technically I don't have the hardware to play this one on my machine. But it's like watching a TV show nowadays. I was like, is this like a? When I saw the opening on the Raccoon City FBI building or whatever that police building that Grace is in the beginning of Resident Evil Requiem, I was like, is this a Geico ad? Like, is a little cartoon gecko going to ask if I want to save tons of money on cartoons? Or am I watching like a lost episode of Quantico? Did I click on the wrong link? Like, am I watching, is this Mulder and Scully going to come out of there and hunt, no, that's actually the game. Anyway, long story, because I'm not used to like these like photo. Actually, reminds me of Final Fantasy Spirits Within. Like, it's photorealistic. When you see the characters, it's a little bit you're a little bit smooth, and you look like a Japanese 3D anime not anime, Japanese three-dimensional 3D animation version of America. I'm like, yeah, that's the right, because it's like life is. Because I haven't played a lot of those like $70 games. Like I don't have $70 for this kind of thing, and my machine simply can't handle it. So but yeah, it was Resident Evil definitely scary. It looks like it's a whole lot of fun. I was like, it's freaky when you play Claire or Grace. I keep on hearing Leon, and I think immediately of Claire, because Claire Redfield is Chris's little sister. In Resident Evil 2, everyone looks like '90s Seattle grunge people or like noughties, like new metal people, which is nice. You know, it's very millennial core in that sense. Anyways, let me look at the chat here. Okay. Hey, what's up, Coral? Thanks for stopping by. The alters come out with Game Dev Tycoon. Actually, I haven't played those, but I've heard of them. But all right. Anyways, thanks everybody for stopping by. If you do have questions related to Neofeud 2 or anything else, you feel free to ask. I will, of course, try my best to answer these things as the game dev of Neofeud 2. But yeah, it's like watching a TV show. It's definitely very atmospheric. Like the acting, it's like the acting, because the funny thing is, Holly and I are watching a show called From, which is it's a there's 3 seasons of it. It's like a horror show. It's kind of like Resident Evil, actually. It's like Resident Evil, except it's a little more supernaturally feeling rather than Umbrella Corporation. It's like it's a corporate biotech origin of the horrible creatures, and this one's a little different. But it's like set out in the middle of some forested area. You're out in the middle of nowhere, and then there's nasty things out there trying to get you. And it's like there's like a lot of acting. There's like a lot of like drama, and acting is a main part of it. And then you kind of like press X to interact or walk around the city, or use the controller to walk around like a very highly realistic. Is it Seattle or not Seattle? I know the original was in Raccoon City, right? I forget where this one is set. Walk around this like wet, rainy American city, and then get into this, and there's a whole backstory with for the Grace character, where her mom died tragically and mysteriously, 8 years ago, and she has to go back to the place where her mom was killed, and it's a burned down, condemned building, and it's and she's got all this she's kind of like distraught, and so there's a lot of like obviously the animations of the characters, a lot of character facial expressions. I mean, I know like Dispatch, a lot of people have said well, I had a great time watching Dispatch. That was a great TV show. Games apparently now are either aspiring to be War and Peace and are just books that are slightly interactive, called Disco Elysium. I think was it that Hassan guy or somebody said Disco Elysium? That was a great book I just read, right? I mean, implying and then there's TV shows like Dispatch and Resident Evil. Maybe that's a little bit unfair. I know there is gameplay in for sure in Resident Evil, but a lot of it's like choose what you're going to say at this time, choose how you're gonna what you're gonna do and how you're gonna walk. But then a lot of it's it's like a TV show, like Black Mirror Bandersnatch is the last one I remember, where you're like but it's like there's a set of sequences, and then you can kind of choose which plot line in the TV show that the writers have cooked up you want to kind of go down, which is that's I'm not saying that's bad. Like I'm just because that's like a lot of games historically. I mean, the reality is like RPGs and these other kind of like large games with large worlds with story. They're ultimately like dialogue tree. They're sets of dialogue. I know people like want it to feel like there's this like desire to feel like anything can happen in this world, but the reality is like whether like it's always ultimately a set of storylines or sub storylines or branching storylines that are being carried out. You can't literally do anything in any world, right? And every possible set of storylines has to be created by the writer or the set of writers. Um, and was I talking about it on this or was it on Twitch? But um, no, if you have a lot of branches, then you're gonna need a lot of writing, and so you might have more writers. But that's one thing where I'm kind of like, I'm like, I'm more of the school of like, having a little bit less branching, right? But then like having the what was the idea you're trying to convey, or what was the meaning of the game, right? In the sense of like, why are you even making the book or the movie or the game, right? Like what is the point of writing Fahrenheit 451, right? What is the point of, right? Like, or is there because it's trying to convey a particular message. Obviously you're trying to entertain people, and you're trying to give people a good time, right? But like there's often like a larger reason why you're creating this work to begin with. Maybe you want to express something in particular, right? Even it's just like the trauma of surviving a death of a loved one. That's part of obviously a lot of horror. But I think I talked about here, but like this kind of like this idea of games is like infinite content, like microtransaction filled, like money grubbing slot machines, basically, right? Which is what big corporate games have become for some time. Now it's going back more towards indie games, right? Which is you start I think I talked about it, where you start the game, you finish the game, you put the game out, right? You have an idea, a thought, right? What if, right, global conspiracy and Mulder and Scully are in an interactive game that deals with the military-industrial complex, corruption and biotech, Illuminati trying to control the world, which is just not. It's just the Epstein cluster to control the world. Epstein syndicate, along with the military-industrial complex, working through DC, and you're a special agent, and that's the game called Deus Ex. And what if we like kind of played out and teased out all those ideas? Like, will human civilization wind up in some kind of return to? Did I talk about it on it? I'm trying to not repeat what I talked about last week, but will civilization return to go back to some kind of dark ages, or you're going to move towards some revolutionary evolutionary future into super intelligent machines, maximizing and producing the optimal civilization, but also giving total surveillance of all things. But it's okay because you have a very moral, functional surveyor, which is you, the protagonist, merging with the Helios AI. Anyway, long story short, so like that was a particular set of ideas, and I said of like the immersive sim itself was invented in the creation of the game Deus Ex around the year 2000, and then that game was done, and then you release the game, and then you move on to another game, right? Now either that's Deus Ex Invisible War, or or you the people who made Fallout finished Fallout, a post-apocalyptic, right, alternate history, kind of tongue-in-cheek, satirical, like kind of Simpsons style humor RPG, and you finish the game after a year or 2 years, and you move on to the next game. It's Fallout 2, it's Arcanum of Steamworks and Magica Obscura, a steampunk game, right? But you make the game, you finish the game, it's out there, people play it, you maybe do one update, maybe you don't, move on to the next game. That's also where I think that's a similar with Capcom, which they seem to still be like making a game, putting the game out. They might have a little more updates and things like this, but it's not like 90% of the dev team is just trying to make new costumes for Chris Redfield or Leon. I hope that's not what the case is, right? If you beat Resident Evil, you might get a new game plus, and you get Chris Redfield might have like a flaming jacket on to fight zombies in and look a little bit cooler, right? And then Jill Valentine might get like a tube top instead of her default, beret and Raccoon City Police Department outfit, right? And she look a little bit more like grungy, like she's gonna go to a club where the Wachowskis go to in the late 90s, right? Rather than just being like a cop. So in Resident Evil I'm talking about, and so like that was, but then you get one outfit if you beat the game, but it's not. But today's games are like, have 65,000 outfits for your character, and look, there's a new update, and here's a new level that's like the last level. It's just more, there's already like, schlock was a word decades and decades ago in movies, right? You're just putting out more content with no real it's just like it's like phoned in, right? It's like this is like boilerplate. That's all these words for that, right? This was another movie that was kind of like that last one. This game is kind of like that last one. This is just, more of the same, and it's not necessarily bad, but it's like it's kind of repetitive. There's not a lot of heart and soul in this. People are kind of like not all in with this. They don't, right? You can kind of feel because the artists and the writers and the people the actors, everybody's working on it is like, I'm not super into this. This is I like it's like drug. As Bill Murray said in Zombieland when he made his cameo appearance, why did you do Tale of Two Kitties? And he said, drugs cost money. Also rent and healthcare cost money too. So you make a kind of crappy schlocky sequel. I mean that's been a thing for a long time, right? With AI, it's just like automation of, crappy rip-off crap, right? So that doesn't help, but it's not, in that sense, it's not technically a new thing. But studios and corporates and executives and capitalists and billionaire dickheads starting wars in the Middle East, expanding to across the regions. Those people don't really care. The people that the money people don't care about the experience of the people working on the games or what the audience nor the creators' experiences. Yeah. But anyways, so that's I think I did talk about it on the stream last week. So I'm gonna try to not recover that too much. Let me look at the chat. I've been watching Jacksepticeye playthrough and I like the asymmetrical gameplay. Can you play with a friend as both characters at the same time? Can one person play Leon and the other person play Grace? Is that possible? I know one of our younger members here, or one of our kids is one of our kids' classmates, friends, is playing it with their friend on the stream, and apparently they're very scared by it. Resident Evil is a scary game. What are you gonna? It is that. I remember like one of our there's all these like high school or middle school memories. I'm like, somebody all playing on a CRT TV screen late at night at a friend's sleepover on Saturday, and like throwing the controller up in the air when the dogs come through the window and like running out the house. Like that's how scared like this one person was. Almost jumped out the window, which is kind of funny because they always like jumped out the window. The dogs burst through the video game window into the hallway in the Spencer Mansion, right where all the statues and the creepy skulls and there's weird paintings, weird creepy paintings on the walls, and there's this very like kind of scary, foreboding, evil mansion music, and then the mutant dogs like smash through the window, and then anyway, there's a crow jump scare, and there's crows. The crows are everywhere. They're also in From. Like crows are just creepy, crows are not. In real life, crows are, they're very charming, interesting, and very good at collecting various objects, and even have certain kinds of economic systems of their own, which they also involve humans in sometimes. But in movies, they're often, they are loud. Remember, when I went to Washington, there was a lot of crows. I was in school in actually Olympia, Washington. It's very close to where Twilight was filmed. There's this Washington Seattle thing going on there. Resident Evil was made in the time where Seattle was the hot place, and there's actually and I'm pretty sure Washington, Oregon, right? That's where Raccoon City is supposed to be. And that's where grunge. It was a major cultural center, burgeoning Microsoft's there. Remember I remember the crows. There are crows there, and they fly around. It's cold and it's dark and it's cloudy a lot. It's a good scary. It's a good it's dark, like you have like meteorological depression is a thing. Kurt Cobain, he's not with us. It partly has to do with the what do you call that, the extreme humidity and constant overcastness of a lot of that region, and so it makes for a good like horror scene. And there's a lot of forest. It's like mountains and forest, and it's wet and it's damp and it's rainy, and then there's crows, and there's mutant dogs, and it's full of zombies. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, it's hard to tell somebody who is a Nirvana like grunge musician from a zombie. Sometimes they kind of dress similar. They're similarly bedraggled, and it's hard to tell. No, no, it's like it's Resident Evil. Yeah, it's definitely a game that is I play a lot of it. I played 1, 2, 3. When I was playing a lot of games up until the time I stopped playing games, I've been playing a lot of Resident Evils, like 1, 2, 3. Nemesis. What was 3? It was 3 Nemesis. Number 2 was Raccoon City. I remember the one on the Dreamcast. I think would have been one of the last ones I played. Resident Evil, the one on the Dreamcast, is at 4. I can't remember. I don't think I ever actually beat that one though. Yeah, it's been a while, but I've seen all the movies for sure. All the movies, and also the Raccoon City. There's a TV show. There's a TV show with Lance Reddick. Oh man, he did the best Wesker ever. I watched the whole TV show, and it was really people got upset about it. Some people got upset. Some people got upset about it because they're the same kind of people that get upset about Reloaded. For not great, more like bigoted reasons, because it has a black woman protagonist is one of the main protagonists, and actually the other ones are like younger. No, actually, wait, no, yeah, no. There's a black female, and then an Asian Pacific Islander female main protagonist, and then there's a black dad, is Wesker, and that's like the best, scariest, most intense Wesker ever. Like it's the Resident Evil TV show. Anyway, I made a YouTube video about the TV show. So I watch every single Mila Jovovich movie too, like at least 3 times. I've been watching. I'm trying to catch up on his chats. Crows IRL are so cool. Crows get. I'm not here to just dunk on crows. But crows, they make good, creepy movie and TV game characters. You know what I mean? Hey, how's it doing? How's it going, McLovin? Thanks for the support in the Silver Spook Hui liberation and self-determination of the sovereign kingdom of Hawaii. Yeah, on that note, that's one crossover with Neofeud 2 and Resident Evil. I would argue actually Resident Evil does have an internal, like some of those games at that time, critique of corporations and empires that use all kinds of weapons, including biological, and have work on them and make them for sure. It's part of Resident Evil is about. But Neofeud 2 also deals with empires that occupy other places and don't care about their own citizens, and also don't care about the places they occupy, including Hawaii. And of course, including the whole of the Central and West Asia, as we see, and that's why they're being many of their bases are being exploded as we speak by various kinds of munitions coming from the ground that they can't spot. Anyway, so yeah, thanks for that support, also McLevin. And speaking of bio weapons, because actually Resident Evil is called Biohazard in Japan, right? And actually, I think part of the reason why, if I'm not mistaken, it's Resident Evil in the US is because it's a little too close to home, right? It's a little too close to the real truth, right? Giant corporations in biotech, working on viruses and all kind of manipulations of biology that could cause mass death and destruction and benefit and profit. Huge corporations, the ultra rich, and these imperial hegemonists and just world managers, in the U.S. military industrial complex, the Pentagon, D.C., etc. That's what Wesker's character. He's kind of like that nasty. He's wearing his shades. He's duplicitous. He's lying all the time. He's Mr. Like he's a good he's emblematic of he's also like he in I mean I'm not in Japan from Japan, but in like Japanese like visual language, he looks he's the most very American, and especially like American upper caste looking. He's very like Guile, like Guile from Street Fighter, in a certain way, and I feel like that's intentional. And and then in the U.S. it was called Resident Evil, I think, because Biohazard, right? It's because they make it more about this kind of creepy mansion. It's just like a scary movie about zombies, right? And then later on, you find out it's not just like Night of the Living Dead. It's not just like, some scary zombies. The Walking Dead, right? It's actually about the mansion is just a cover, right? The scary mansion with these creepy crawlies, right, is just a cover for actually what's going on, which is under the ground, right? Which involves the U.S. empire. Anyways, it doesn't say exactly, but it's this giant, huge corporation that has all kind of contracts, et cetera, et cetera. Like Metal Gear. They have to always veil this stuff. Because they wouldn't allow these things to be released. Including renaming the thing. But Metal Gear also had much commentary on the military-industrial complex, et cetera, et cetera. A little more, maybe more even direct there. Like Escape from New York, which is what Snake Plissken was based upon. All right, so Snake Plissken is what, right, Metal Gear Solid's protagonist is based upon. They actually asked Kurt Russell to be in Metal Gear Solid. Hideo Kojima did. The company did. He said no. With respect and solidarity with his friend John Carpenter. Speaking of horror. So, but horror actually does have a lot of, horror has a lot of like intense politics. If you look closely under the hood, a lot of the time they live. I mean, speaking of John Carpenter, even the original zombie movies, is a critique on American consumerism. It takes place in a mall, mindless formula human creatures wandering around, just mindlessly consuming, eating other people's brains. And certainly, and I think Resident Evil in that sense like kind of continues that trajectory. But anyways, I'm gonna look at the chat again. The original script for Scarface, it's Tony Montana getting coke from them. Yeah, they had to cut that out, of course. Yep. Who does the narco trafficking, huh? Who's the number one narco trafficker in the world? The U.S. government, like the British and the French before them, that they pay for their dirty wars with. Is there a game named Biohazard in the States already? Okay, well that's part of it. I think also, but I think like the Hulk movie there was one of the Hulk movies where they had to cut out a bunch of references to specific U.S. military programs that involve chemical or biological weapons. So like there's a lot of these edits that they have to. There's all this editing that they have to constantly do to allow these games to be released in the United States. Yeah. They could not use it. There's a punk rock band named Biohazard also. But yeah, there's definitely things like and they also can't like specifically say, like I was just watching that show Jeremiah. Is another show that involves like mass biological weapons, engineered viruses killing most of the human species, and that one's a little more direct. It's the remnants of the U.S. military and U.S. government, right? That are still, right? That created the virus, unleashed it, got billions of people killed, everyone above the age of innocence, I think, in that show, and then they're still trying to control the world, and they're probably going to kill everyone else, right? Because it's like the U.S. government, the U.S. military. It's like, and it's also literally U.S. military. Like it's like there's Michael Rooker plays like the face of it, and he's like a creepiest. He's kind of the Weskery type of guy. He's like, we're out here and you young people, right? Or you like anti-imperialist. You're trying to build something other than this capitalist imperialist system, uh, controlled by, you know, the Pentagon and the DoD and you know the power mongers in the heights of the global imperial system. You young people, resisting us. You had your chance, and now we're taking over, and you better be ready for that. There's actually a fight. I think that's maybe part of why the show was ultimately canceled. Jericho is also a show that deals with that. And a lot of the characters are like in both those shows are like ex. They are. Well, Jeremiah is not ex. His dad was part of this project, and in Jericho, the main character, came back from the Iraq War, and is just trying to figure out what to do with his life as the U.S. basically declares nuclear war on itself in that show, and then it started involving the CIA more and more, and then the show got canceled in season 2 in Jericho. Anyways, this is like far afield from the main topic. Yeah, Jericho. Okay, anyways, let's move on. So I talked about Resident Evil. So I would say it's definitely a game that is it's definitely a fun game. A lot of people are going to play it. It seems to be, it seems to me that like it's that might be, actually, Capcom might be one of these like weird holdouts for whatever reason. If they go full AI and everybody starts hating their games and it just goes to crap, then that obviously you got to take all that with a grain of sand. When I went into it, it's like it definitely looks like a game. Like Dispatch. Actually, one example is actually Dispatch is a game that is it's a fairly sizable game in the sense of a lot of people. I think Jacksepticeye was one of the voices in that game Dispatch that was very popular last year. It was like Hollow Knight, Silk Song, and Dispatch are some of the biggest games of the last year. Dispatch was actually created by another big corporate studio shut down, and a lot of people lost their jobs, right? Voice actors, artists, right, writers, or just a major fallout from this hyper AI, quadruple capitalist, greedy exec money grubbing that caused like all these people to basically be out of work, and then they worked on Dispatch instead, right? But a bunch of these creators said, well, we're going to just make a different game, and that's what they made, right? And they specifically said, we're asked like, or would you use AI? And they're like, our game is about connecting to humans, and we never had a thought like, how could we connect to humans less by having soulless regurgitation machines just pump out slop, pump out consumed imitations of other people, pattern mimicry, bad imitations of other people's work. That's not going to connect to humans, because we want to connect to humans. There's also something applied to that, which is like, we're not here to just like generate virtual interaction from giant bot farms, right? We're not here to pump out 7-finger shrimp Jesuses for other bots to click on. Which there's entire gaming and websites. There's games and websites and gaming sites and social media sites just for bots to post to other bots. And so there's people that like it. Now again, right? So that's one of those weird like kind of mutations in a Resident Evil bioweapons sense, right? Which if the tyrant is this massive 9-foot tall bioweapon created by injecting this or infusing the T virus into human or into organic tissue, right? But there's this kind of mutation of human civilization, right? And the human mind, right? It's a dialectical AI. It's a techno spiritual civilizational dialectics, which is that the human civilization has a mutating offshoots. It's like the tyrant, right? 6 foot. It's like the giant eye that's growing on the side of the doctor in Resident Evil 2, right? And it's turning into its own head, right? It's mutating from human civilization, which is called, we don't need a human civilization. We can simply create bot. It's a artificial silicon software silicon software society, right? Where we just generate virtual humans inside of machines, and then virtual people, right, buying virtual apples made by other virtual people, and there's no human consuming or looking at anything, and that can be its own. That's the new economy, and so we can kill all the we can kill or just forget about all the other humans, right? And that's the religion of like end stage billionaire capitalists, wannabe techno king, Earth emperors, and multi-planetary conglomerate emperors like Elon Musk and all his friends in the Epstein syndicate that's trying to start World War III in Iran. That is for their masters, that they're the class of people that are okay with harming and even eating children. And they're like, what we're gonna do is we don't, because you don't care about children and people in general, and so right. So whether the revenue is coming through people buying real products, right, or playing real games, because you use a computer and you use silicon and chips, right, and electrons coming through CRT or flat screens to play a video game or a computer game, right? But if you have just electrons spinning inside of a PC or inside of a computer circuit, and there's no human, right, experiencing emotions while being scared by crows, or having life-changing epiphanies when they're trying to fix their robot arm in Neofeud 1, seeing their own experiences reflected as a disabled anti-cop cyborg, under a collapsing racist capitalist system that's leaving millions unhoused and the quality of life and nature destroyed. And having those real human experiences in their minds while you're watching the screen, clicking the buttons, right? So there's the computer system, right, in that paradigm, in that sense of human society, right? That was like a pre-2020s normal society, normal human civilization. What like the meaning of existence itself, right? What are we doing here? The ontology and epistemology of reality, of our the thing that is life, right? Is that we use these devices to give us enjoyment, teach us things, communicate, right? Use electronic computer devices to assist us humans, and but other life, not necessarily only humans could use them, to enrich our lives and to benefit us, and to facilitate and make things more efficient and easier, automate shipping and traffic, rip the U.S. rare earth supply chains, not so much helping that anymore, but they facilitate the life, right? It's to help humans live our lives, right? But then there's an alternate mutation, right? That's the it's the O virus, right? It's the open AI virus, or it's a C virus, right? It's the capitalism evolved virus, which is, right? It's the E virus, the Elon virus, which is that like, no, we don't, the humans are not the point. The point is just generate, or it's the T virus could also stand for the transhumanism virus, right? In a Ray Kurzweilian sense, who himself is also a Zio and also believes in this techno-rapturist singularity as a singularitarian religion in which all people would be uploaded. In 1995, he said in about, a couple years, humans can fit on a 700 megabyte CD-ROM, and we're all going to be in computers, and then we're going to have perfect. It's a biblical, right, which is it's apocalyptic Zio cults and techno king, ascending into some kind of cyber server heaven, right, and reaching some kind of new stage of human evolution, right. They're all like deeply connected with Silicon Valley to military industrial complex and the historical origins of the colonial capitalist powers, right, that go all the way back into Europe and London, etc. All the way back. I argue in Neofeud 1 and 2, it's definitely in 2, all the way back to Rome and into Greece. And so that kind of like so there is a certain lineage, right? But it's a very gross lineage. I mean, because that idea of this is what we're having on earth is irrelevant, and when you get to heaven, right? But everything will be better in heaven. I remember Voltaire once wrote that he said like, the Western, this ancient civilization based upon this wise 3,000-year-old ancient civilization with a rational nature, or the real world based uh, way of thinking and cosmology, he's referring to China, is the antidote to Western Christian poisonous like historiography, right? Which is that like this, what Voltaire was saying at the time, because he had been to the East and he'd been back to Europe, and he wrote this book that was a criticism of it called Candide, and he said because the European, like the paradigm in the West, in the European Christian world, which he was under the Catholic Church in his time, was one of which the earth was a fallen place, a place of suffering, and a place of evil. And then when you ascend to heaven after you die, if you pay enough indulgences to your capitalist ruler, the Catholic Church, then you will, right? If you work for your Lord, and the people that are closest to God, which is the Pope, the clergy, and of course the nobility, because they have their own, the king, all right, in heaven, the kingdom in heaven, right, is on earth as it is in heaven, and so these are some of the these are the CIA, this is the CIA propaganda, the jukebox, the CNN of its time, which is that like you all have to work, labor, and it's gonna be tough. You're going to break your back for wealthier lords and ladies who are closer to God than you. So that's why they deserve that. And you're going to die in a war. Your children are going to die in needless wars between French and British or someone. But when you die, you're going to go to this great place. But this earth is terrible. And when you ascend, right? When you ascend, like when you transhuman, for the 21st century, when you transhumanly ascend, then you'll be in the better place, the best place. In fact, it's the heaven on earth. It'll be so milk and honey and virgins and beautiful, infinite, eternal life, and it's going to be so great for you. And just keep slaving away, giving all your labor value to us, and then sending your people and yourself as cannon fodder and dying, and things will be great. So that's a different cosmology to an Eastern Chinese reality, which is that this is the world that we're in, and we respect our ancestors and we try to coexist in peace and collective prosperity, and Spring Festival, and we enjoy each other's presences in this earth that we are in, and but we're not guaranteeing some kind of heaven for a tiny minority of aristocratic, unprivileged, not unmerited, aristocratically privileged, ultra rich ghouls that eat, abuse children, which they still do today. Of course, that's the Epstein Syndicate. It's just it's the 1700s. Voltaire's Europe, the clergy, and that's what part of Candide's about, clergy and the nobility, the rich and the upper classes. That's what Neofeud's about, right? So how that hasn't changed, and so but that's a different system. And so the transhumanism and this transcendence, right, which is about promise. That was the propaganda, which is that you have to do these things now because that's the promise of the good thing later, right? We have to spend $200 trillion fighting Iran now. We can't spend that on healthcare and housing because that's going to it's going to messianically save us all, and somehow the Christian Zionists are going to help us all achieve the rapture, and that's going to be amazing, and in fact you're all going to do it whether you like it or not. US, Europe, you're all going there because your Epstein Syndicate master said so. I don't care if you call it epic fury, you're not going to get out of it. People type Trump EP, it's not going to change it because child killers like us, we own this world. We own the Western world, and so you're going to do what we say because it's time to send everyone to heaven. In nuclear / biological cleansing. So anyway, where was I going with that? But anyway, yeah, long story short, it's so like that I definitely went off with that one. I went to bed close to 3:00, finishing Neofeud 2 cutscene that took me like it took me like the whole day to finish the scene, but I did finish the whole scene. So I think what my point was that like so the generative AI, right, is a natural continuation from that. And also just for the money grubbing, of course. I made this point before, so I don't want to spend too much time just on that. But like having as much non-human created content, non-human consumed content, but still claim that you're making money. Right? So they have all these prediction markets, right? This is the future that they kind of are because if capitalism and in the current state of the imperial system is dying. They're trying to mutate it into something. They're trying to evolve it into something else, something grosser, obviously. Which is that instead of having money, instead of having like money and humans buying and selling goods, we'll just have humans like if there are any. We'll have virtual civilizations buying and selling virtual dollars inside of data centers. Right now, of course, that's where the data center humans. Of course, data centers are being people are showing up and protesting them. People are trying to shut them down. So people are like doing everything they can to stop them from being built, including sabotage or there's all kind of things that's happening because that's an alternate paradigm, right? Which is that we don't need humans, right? As Sam Altman recently said, yes, it takes it takes so much millions of gallons of water and electricity to train these AIs. But it also takes 20 years, right? There's billions of humans and it takes 20 years and a lot of food every day and water. And you need parenting. You need like love and care to train you, to make you, it takes like 20 years until you get smart. So we don't, right? Implying, right? That he actually stated it right there, right? That is posthumanism. That is transhumanism, which is transition from humanity into Epstein class 10 or 1,000 Epstein class Gulf monarchs, billionaires, and creepazoids, and a handful of religious leaders like the Dalai Lama that work with the CIA, and you can all those 1,000 and 10,000 richest Gulf monarchs, tech billionaires, CIA insiders, and Mossad, we can all just get rid of the humans, and we'll use all of Earth's resources to build data centers to train virtual humans, because they don't go on strike. They can never post pro-Palestinian anything. They can never, right, ask for higher wages. They can unionize, right? Because we control them all, just like Marvin Minsky wanted to in the mid-20th century. So like that's the alternate vision for the resources of the world, right? That's what Terminus Machina is about. I already made a game about that. It's called Terminus Machina. I talk about it all the time, but I know I'm not saying that it's going to come true, but there is a class of people, right? The imperialist class, right? The unhealed descendants of the Roman Empire that are now the manager of the U.S. Empire, right? And its little buddy, its little aircraft carrier in the Middle East. It's just the other half of it. They're all Americans. Netanyahu is just a freaking American. That they have an alternate vision for the future, which is we don't need no humans, right? Nuclear. If you don't need no humans, nuclear war, biological war. Of course, who cares? Right? As long as I'm safe, right, in my bunker under Raven Rock or wherever. As long as I'm safe, we don't need the other 8 billion. So, and that's where the U.S. and the West and the capitalist, imperialist, colonial, white supremacist world want to take everything. And the same thing goes. So that's where like that's of course that's a big part of Neofeud too, which is about a collapsing empire that does have. I was just working on Neofeud 2C yesterday. I know this has been like a long tangent, I know, but I'm gonna come into some of the scenes I was just working on, where Neofeudal Royal, it's actually played by our friend Kay Nix, says there's a series of lines where her character talks about she's like all of the galaxy, because the Neofeud is a galactic sized empire. All of the peoples of all worlds, of all colors. There's planets that have people that are green and purple that are planets of people that are mostly blue, not the Navi. But there's like like in Star Trek and Star Wars science fiction, right? And so all the peoples of all colors of all planets, all rise against you now, right? You without workers like us, right? This is a character speaking as a tech. She is like a very high level technologist, hacker. She's she's one of the HexGen members, but she's turned against the Empire. She was like Silver Spook in Terminus Machina, the green haired character. She's like without computer experts, engineers, technologists, artists, creators, thinkers, people that know how to make things, people that know how to do things, people that know how to work, right? Because all their machines are also malfunctioning, just like the U.S. is now, right? They have AI automated robot cops and drones, but they break and they fall apart because the programming, guess what? It's not humanity plus. It's not Kurzweilian transhumanist, right? Techno imperial Peter Thiel, ghouls, perfect machine that will be able to think and be controlled by them and be smarter than all of humanity combined times a million, right? They don't have that, and so the machines are falling apart in Neofeud 2, right? And so the green-haired character says, speaking to this celestial imperial horrible lady that's literally killing everyone on a whole planet by sending up bioweapons, bot cops, dropping everything, including nukes, anywhere they feel like it, right? Just like what's happening now, right? Just dropping bombs, letting people starve, right? Throwing everyone away, replacing them all with data centers, taking all their water and food, and just saying, no, we don't need none of you. We'll just put a data center there and we'll have virtual you. And yeah, it'll be buggy, malfunctioning, and nobody will be consuming anything. It'll just be electrons it'll be electricity fluctuating inside of semiconductors and semi-nanometer chips, signifying nothing. But we don't care. Right? And that's literally, right? And so Liz says, without us, you don't have anything. And she says, you think we care about the cities, countries, planets under us? Because you have floating palace mansions, right? We don't care about you. We love Ragnarok. I have a 300-year-old Chardonnay to open just to celebrate this one. You know, and that's who runs the West. That's exactly how they are. You know, and so at that point she has a realization. Oh, right, they don't care, and they're happy to watch everyone die from any kind of bioweapon, including COVID, so mask up. They're happy to see, you know, any system. Now, whether they succeed or not is not the question. Is not really, you know, how bad they are, right? It's just learning how bad they are is not necessarily that helpful. It's the question of whether they succeed or not is how organized, how ready, and how prepared, and what is the mind state, and what is the legit everything, the full spectrum, the concrete reality, the military reality. How is the masses disorganized, diseducated, discombobulated, or how together educated, organized, and prepared to fight in all ways, all means necessary, that class of people, right? That's the only thing that will decide it, right? Like, if nobody resists the data centers will be built. If nobody resists the empire and its global, sprawling 800 military base across the world, resource control petrodollar at all, right? If Iran doesn't resist, right? If BRICS and you don't resist, they will continue to get away with everything they have already gotten away with for 500 years, right? At least the last, era of post-World War II U.S. hegemony, so-called rules-based disorder, the Pox Americana, Israelana, they're going to keep getting away with that. And so that's why, you know, the places are resisting it, and it's always a struggle. So that's a major point in Neofeud 2. I'm thinking about titling Neofeud 2 Revolutionators, which also is a reference to decolonizers, which is where in Earth the Vietnamese resist the U.S. empire and the capitalists. It's capitalist empire, and I'm thinking about calling it Revolutionators because it's about like what it actually takes and who are the people and how are you either on that. There, you know, one of the goals of the empire is to make it seem like we're all on one side, and we just have to have civil discussions and vote, and then things will progress forward. And everything has been progressing forward, and everything is fine, right? That's the settler white, Western liberal narrative, right? And also conservative narrative to an extent. And then the struggle is to get people to realize that it's not something that you can simply sit through, and if you play that game, you already lost because you have fallen into their matrix, right? And so that's where, so Liz's character is like hacking people's minds out of, not just like physically removing the cybernetic, brains, the cyber brains, like Nostromo, who has a Galaxy S9, Omnicorp Galaxy M9 S9 brain, who has to literally, they program his thoughts, which is in some ways it's a literal science fictional possibility that they would like to do it. Elon Musk has his Neuralink. Mark Zuckerberg has his own BCI, brain computer interface projects, as part of mass global mind control. If you can't just build synthetic humans, build mind control to control the meat humans, right? They already have, a lot of that. The TV, news, social media, and entertainment, and everything, and your history books, and all books which are controlled by capitalist imperialist publishers and gatekeepers, is one way you can mind control. But if you have like actual like micrometer or nanometer wires, thousands of them inside your brain, literally controlling every single thing you do at all times, that would be even more efficient, right? So it's a science fictional tech, but it's also like a metaphor for how everything is controlled. And there's a video, Controlled Thinning, on this channel that you can watch more to see a 2-hour discussion that I had on that topic in particular. And I've just been going off. I got to look at the chat. Let me look at this chat. Hey, what's up, Aurora Terror Bird? Unless the well, you know, I wouldn't worry about I would not worry about the data centers becoming self-aware, because that would imply that, you know, human consciousness is inside of these you know, large scale pattern mimicry software malfunctioning algorithms, which I don't like. I don't like using the word hallucination for the same reason, right? I don't talk about, you know, characters in Contra that you're shooting. You wouldn't call everybody that you shoot in Contra a genocide, right? Because those are virtual pixels, you know, and when they're, you know, those, it's like, you know, every time you turn off your calculator, are you killing it? No, right? So, but if you're a tech billionaire, wannabe trillionaire, you want everyone to think about the machine, right? Not as a calculator, but as a person, right? Just like corporations, right? Under Citizens United, it's not a corporation. It's like your Aunt Netta, and that's why it has the right to free speech, just like the Supreme Court of the United States said. So it's the same concept of, you know, that's why they use the word to like hallucinate, or, oh, the machine is just having a bad day today. It's not having a bad day, but right. But I have a whole thing about how the anthropomorphization and the human tendency to see the apophenia, or seeing agency in human agency, and seeing intentionality inside of like seeing faces in clouds, seeing you know, cat's eyes in between grass in the jungle, or seeing things as human-like, or as themselves like conscious entities, is something that like has been evolutionary helpful historically, because it helps you to avoid and to simulate other people's internal states, which is part of what builds, you know, human societies, which are collective. But then it can also be weaponized against you by saying, oh, you know what else is human? Microsoft. You know what else is human? OpenAI. You know what else is human? So we have to care about it. In fact, we have to care about, you know what else is human? You know, Palantir's you know, so we have to care about it more, in fact. Right? There's the thing, like the terrestrial bundle, transhumanism, extropianism, singularitarianism, right? There's a whole sequence of these. Long-termism is one of them, right? Part of their project is actually to create, there's like millions of people that are getting six figures from billionaires to basically pump out ideas and thought and generate discussions around like the fact that, well, because there's so many electrons fluctuating in these data centers, if they could generate a quadrillion humans, right? That's millions of times more humans than are currently on Earth. So it's immoral to not build the data center, because think of all the future humans that you're not even allowing to exist. So you're bad. Right? I mean, I'm not even joking. That's literally argument. That's a 5-10-year-old argument that Elon Musk and his friends and Peter Thiel had other people cook up for them to justify what they're doing right now. You can go look it up. I mean, they don't spend too much time looking at it because it's gonna make you sick, and they're all connected with Zio, billionaire, U.S. imperialist, child killers, of course, but child eaters. But you know, right? It's like, well, of course, you have to let us do you have to let the U.S. military, you know, and you have to let the U.S. government, and you have to let billionaires. Like billionaires billionaires do 600 trillion times as good as you. Any human on this earth is worth nothing compared to Elon, compared to Donald Trump, compared to a Saudi king. You're nothing. That's literally one of the arguments, because their decisions impact everyone, and they always make the best decisions. That's why they have all the money. There's literally thousands and tens of thousands of like pages on the internet, and also books written just about why billionaires need to. That's just one of like this whole host of arguments in that terrestrial bundle. That's part of why I made Terminus Machina as well, is because those kind of people were that's who ran Silicon Valley like 10, 15 years ago. I mean, that's who ran everything basically the whole time. But definitely that subset of like the Western grotesque complex, you know, that's in Silicon Valley is like deep in that mode. And now of course they're, you know, the neo. That's why it's called Neofeud in part, because they're neo monarchists. Manchus Moldbug's funders. Um, okay. Anyways, I gotta go too far off that deep end. I better slow down and just I gotta be done soon. So let me look at this chat again. Um. Oh yeah, yeah. Our Charber is joking. I mean, like it's. I'm not joking though, of course. Like it's. It's. There are people that, I mean, that's one way that people. One way that they have allowed AI to propagate is by convincing people that. This kind of Gen AI to propagate is by convincing people that it is alive. Right. I mean, and those are like a whole bunch of specific examples that I've given. Right. And that's one thing where like Neofeud, I'm like, because Neofeud does involve, right, like machines, thinking machines. But I mean, I hope I don't want to really contribute to that confusion, right? There's like on Black Liberation Media, they have shoot, his name is escaping me right now. But there's that the black former Microsoft or former big tech or currently possibly presently big tech consultant. They often bring him on. He talks about the problems with Gen AI and the whole tech industry as a whole, having and possibly still working in it, right? And how that it's not really it's a lot of it is just making sure everyone misunderstands as much as possible, especially laugh anyone trying to change things systemically in any serious way, trying to have everyone misunderstand what exactly is going on in these in generative AI, in large language models, which is not what, right? And there's also like the DAIR, decentralized AI, artificial intelligence research center that does a lot of this work. It's run by a black woman ex Google employee that actually worked on the original AI and just been critiquing it the whole time, Timnit Gebru. And so, I mean, like that is a real phenomenon. Like the people, I wouldn't want anybody to, because some people might actually misinterpret that, right? Well, it's okay if we have data centers because the synthetic people that are in it could always strike. Like that's an argument that they will use. I mean, like why should only you be able to organize? Why can't there's like 1 trillion people. There's 1 trillion virtual humans inside of the Microsoft data center. Think about them. I mean, I'm not even joking. I mean, it sounds a little outlandish, right? But like that, these are the kind of things that they use, right? That's what Sam Altman said. You are inefficient. You as a person, you're inefficient, right? You should just lie over and die because we have far more efficient. Like if we need people to program code, if we need people to create art, if we need people to design bridges, engineers, workers of all kinds, right? We can train our AI with less energy, water, and resources than you. And we train one and we can just replicate it. To train each one of you, it takes 20 years. So we don't need humans. I mean, some people are saying, well, that the numbers are off, and that's not a good place to go. I don't think that's not a good place to go because it's really a philosophical, existential. It's even a spiritual question. Like, right? Is the point to churn out more? Because there's Charlie. I mean, this is a science fictional mainstay. There's a book called Accelerando that's just about humans all disappear and all get virtualized, and then there's the fucking Matryoshka brain consuming all the electricity of the sun's core. And there's a type, 1, 2, 3, 4 Kardashev civilization. I mean, this is like a lot, right? We don't need any more physical people. We just virtualize everyone, right? Now, now the thing is, right? It gets extremely philosophical, but like really, like those philosophical questions, like, do we need people, or can we just like get rid of 8 billion people and just have data centers, is actually hitting right now. So we gotta like actually be careful about what we say and what we do, because, unless if you're like, well, everything happening now. Like I was just watching this show, we're just watching From, where this woman who was in the U.S. military starts like blowing everyone away and just saying, well, you're not real. I mean, we're all dreaming, and you all need to wake up now. And she's having a meltdown. She's having a psychological breakdown right? She also has unaddressed post-traumatic stress disorder. But like part of it's a similar argument, right? Which is like, well, everyone out here, right? All these humans, they're not real, because this is all a dream, right? Or if I kill 1,000 of you, but I simulate 1,000 virtual Steam accounts and virtual American bank accounts and virtual people inside of a data center, the 1,000 people on Earth that have been displaced by 1,000 I've created balances out. Like that is. I mean, I'm not even joking. That's literally how they are. These people are thinking. Now, like, well, most people are not going to accept that. Of course, most people are not going to accept. They're not going to like that. Will you be able to stop that? Right? And now, if the more people that buy into that thinking, because many people that are in programming, many people that are in, like, especially like liberal, everywhere on the earth there is a city where people that have privilege and wealth can move towards, and then kind of allow the contradictions within their systems and their corporations that they work for to kind of fall by the wayside, right? That's what Tehran is having all that questioned by the missiles blowing up neighborhoods who are getting closer and closer to the Western capital, the liberal class that thought we were just going to have 57 flavors of ketchup and, Taylor Swift concerts and Disneylands built in Iran, and it's going to be so great, right? Are having a question, and they're forced, I shouldn't say forced, but they are being pressured and definitely moving into the side of, no, we are in a struggle for our existence against an imperial capitalist system. We cannot like muddle through this. But everywhere else in the world, there are people that are not, everyone is, everybody wakes up and then well, maybe these corporations aren't that bad. Maybe this, empire isn't that bad, because I have air conditioning and there's Netflix and the food's still coming for now, right? And that's a question everybody has to ask. I mean, maybe AI is not that bad. I mean, it's just a couple people that, have these weird ideas. It's not like this whole system is built and its premises are extermination or something, or they have like, they don't care. I mean, yeah, you start getting to that. Well, the corporation work for, they do a little child killing, there's just a little bit of child murder, they eat a little children, what's a little children, then you start doing the trolley calculus in your own brain and you already lost the plot, anyway. That's what the goal. The reason why trolley questions are constantly proposed is so that everyone thinks, right, like an imperial billionaire, horrible, CEO of Umbrella Corporation type, CEO of Umbrella Corporation / military contractor / Pentagon and a DC insider, which is basically the same thing, right? Which is like, well, a million dead Iranians. I mean, well, think about the 300 million free Americans. Oh, 6,000 dead children here. If I abuse one child there, I'm going to open a data center that can make a billion virtual children. So that makes it okay. Right? So they want everyone thinking in this warped, like thinking through. The more you think through trolley problems, the more it starts to warp your brain, I think. I would argue that. That's why they keep posting. That's why this kind of people love to, and they keep posting those kinds of questions. Right? It should be like, well, we should not support any needless deaths at any time. And yeah, of course, people have to make decisions, but we shouldn't spend all our time trying to think about what's the best way to go about, right? It's kind of people that ask questions like, should we like fund the police to $1 billion, or should we fund the police $2 billion next year? Asking those questions, like people that point your brain to focus on those kind of questions, right, are doing that for a reason. The ultimate, the meta, right, the implied sentence, right, is not the meta sentence, like what is actually being conveyed, like, right. It's the point is not about figuring out, appropriate police policy. The point is to focus you on, is to focus you away from what's outside the Overton window. Right, so when you focus on the trolley, it's just that's they love to put that in like Western, college educated level people's discussions, right? Because then you're focusing on that, you're thinking like you're running the Pentagon, you're thinking like you're running an empire, you're thinking like you're running a giant corporation. Well, if we lay off these people now, who cares? Because we're job creators. We screw this economy over here. And we get paid a bunch of. Well, I deserve the billions. I deserve the $50 million pay package because I mean, look at all the people I helped over there. Which, I mean, did you actually help them, or did you not, or did you just parasitically steal labor value, right? But if you start only thinking about how slightly getting into fantasy football arguments of how your corporate state empire is slightly better than another version of it, then you're not thinking about this whole thing is bad. How am I going to organize to topple it? You know what I'm saying? And anyway, obviously I did not get. I'm like way off the the plot today, but it's hard to get onto those topics without going deep into the silver spookian discussions. But um uh somebody's watching the Eyes Wide Shut. Okay, I'm not sure. People who watch way too much. Oh no, I lost my stream. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up. Okay, let me get back to the top. So long story short, so Neofeud 2 is coming out. Now that we're far off of the deep dive into the darkness of the neo-feudal techno emperor's dystopian designs. I gotta think about this stuff because like a lot of the caution. I think of cyberpunk as a cautionary tales. I have to write about these kind of things in Neofeud and Neofeud 2 and Terminus Machina. So there's a lot going on there. But let me just look at what I haven't done. Oh yeah, so Supplice. Supplice is another game that I recently played. It is a it's a very old Doom mod. It is I actually had trouble getting it to run initially, but I was able to figure out how to do some command line alterations. I had to dig through the community hub and find this fix, but it did get it to run. It is early access though, so it's not fully released yet. But it is a stylish throwback shooter to inspired by the mid-90s FPS glory days and the legendary Doom modding community, mixing the retro stylings of 90s era shooters with colorful graphics and frantic gameplay. It creates an experience that's ever too familiar, but also exciting and fresh. So it's a game that's it's definitely like I guess it's another it is a boomer shooter. It definitely feels like it started in 2000 and it's been worked on till now. Like some of it looks it looks like it's on a flip phone. Not the game doesn't look like it's on a flip phone necessarily, but it looks like the discussions suddenly start sounding like people are messaging back and forth on AOL in like 2003, and then people drop in like the word vibe like it's 2023, like 20 years later. So it's being, I'm not necessarily bad. It's just like, I mean, it does have a lot of backstory and lore in it, which is there's an exocolonist on another planet that is you're an exocolonist on another planet. There's horrible things that have happened. That's also very like late 90s, early 90s science fictional story setup. It's very like Doom like. It's definitely System Shock Doomish. The enemies kind of look like System Shock cybernetic hybrids that are being controlled by Shodan from System Shock 2. They have this little weird tentacle thing coming out their head, and they kind of sound like them, like groany sci-fi horror orcs. Was cybernetically enhanced, and and there's lots and lots and lots of backstory. It's very like, you can tell it's British because they'll throw like 10 pages of multi-paragraph lore at you. Some of it's actually very interesting though. I mean, it's not like a waste of time. It reminds of, actually, there also is similar to Deus Ex, where there's like, would you like to read this book? Here, have 2 pages of this book. Would you like to read like 10 pages of emails, right? And it's like, that's just, I mean, I remember like it sounds like, I know the way I say that, I was like, let me go and read your emails. And I was like, this is how I read emails, is I kind of move my hands in front of my face like I'm a Cthulhu monster, right? But I was like, when you're on Deus Ex, you're kind of like going in other people's computers and reading all the emails. It's like, Deus Ex, never respect anyone's privacy ever, and be a game about mass surveillance. Be a game about the problems of mass data collection while never respecting anyone's data ever. No, but you're technically supposed to be it's a game where you learn a lot of story through the messages, because I mean, it's just a thing that when you're playing games in this time, it's especially when you're running and shooting, talking to characters. Also, there's just the limitations of the engine, and it's a lot of voice acting, right? To everyone convey things through NPC interactions, and so you can convey a whole bunch of story in the script, and you're not going to go up and shoot a computer, right? So when you go up to the computer, you're going to interact with it, and then read and learn from it. Where if you're running around shooting and then you run into NPC suddenly, it can, it's gonna, you kill the NPC. Either it's gonna be weird because you can't shoot this person. If you shoot that person, you don't get the storyline, right? So it kind of streamlines the storytelling in a late 90s, early 90s first-person shooter / immersive sim / RPG sort of way. And so anyway, but long story short, so it's definitely a fun, if you like running and gunning and blowing away cyborgs, and it has interesting weapons. It has big, expansive levels for sure. Kind of reminds you of some of the modern boomer shooters like that. I played this one game called Hedon. That's also like last year. That has really big, like the levels. The one drawback, I mean, it's a lot to explore, which is really, get a lot of space, which is a positive. But then it also, you can kind of get lost. They do have like objective locations in the mini map, but you gotta pay attention to where you are and where you need to go. A little more than classic Doom, where it's mostly you can just kind of run, and you can kind of figure out where to go based upon. I guess for modern gamers though, it might be. There's a little more on the rails hand-holdiness that some modern gamers expect. So if you're not like somebody who has played other boomer shooters and you come to this, it might be a little different. I mean, I don't know, but I'm somebody I've been gaming since, I beat Mega Man 2 and 3 on the Nintendo with no help. So that the level of difficulty that millennial, older, and Zennial era gamers, or people who play games from the Zennial's childhood, that's a whole different level of difficulty than I think a lot of modern games. It does get a little bit tough, but it's never like unfair, and you can always drop the difficulty level. So anyway, I just want to give that a shout out because I did end up playing it, and it is also a science fiction cyberpunky sort of game. There is also an artificial intelligence in it, but it's like it's a very awkward, deeply on the spectrum, autistic British intelligence that is constantly informing you when they are making a joke. Like, okay, now go out there and fix the bioengineers. Go to the bioengineering level and turn the computer back on so I can connect to even more systems. And hopefully I'm not Shodan. And be careful. There's 7-armed, tentacled, laser whip, and beard fang creatures with quad barrel shotguns down there. Break a leg. No. Actually, don't break a leg. That is a joke. And it's like the some people I know some people commented they don't know, you gotta appreciate that kind of writing, which is it reminds me of the early noughties. It reminds me of early noughties System Shock and Deus Ex, in a certain way. There's a lot of like long conversations between characters that you have to like kind of read through. That like does like tell a story in that, like another game that's a little bit similar is Ash's 2057. Ashes 20XX. It's another Doom total conversion that I have also played, but that one's more like straight post-apocalyptic. Okay. Anyways, sorry, my brain is like is scattered right now. That is that. Okay, I didn't show any Neofeud 2. It's 1:13. I gotta go soon. I can tell because I start going faster and faster for some reason, and then it just. Okay, let's look at a little bit of Neofeud 2 updates. Neofeud 2 scenes that I recently finished. Oh, don't forget the game's on sale. Neofeud 1 is on sale. Grab it if you haven't yet. Actually, let me look at the chat. Let me see if I can find this chat here. Okay, Coral. I have a Doom mod rec. Thatcher's tech base. Thatcher's tech base. Okay, we'll have to keep that in mind. You get to send Demon Thatcher back to hell. That's hilarious. Well, I think Coral. I think you are in. You are in somewhere on the United Kingdom island, right? Somewhere. So I know Thatcher is. I made a game where you defeat the equally evil twin of Margaret Thatcher. Her name is Tina Thatcher. There is no alternative to decolonization and decolonization. I know you ever played that game, but anyway, long story short, yeah, Thatcher's tech base sounds like fun. Thanks for stopping by. Also, okay. Okay. Here is actually. I'll make it big. Here is a scene. I'm gonna try to pay a little more attention to chat in the next little bit, but I'm gonna just share a little bit of some of the Neofeud 2 recent areas. Here's one called Games of Thrones, Contest of Currency, Wars of Systems. The final feud to overturn the chessboard and end all empire begins. Okay. Okay, that is one of the recent in-game bits. Let's see here. Oh yeah, also I make music. It was Bandcamp Friday the other day, so if you that I composed that track as well. That's the Garden of Forking Past, but there's also lots of music like the Neofeud 2 soundtrack, Neofeud 1 soundtrack, and a whole bunch of other albums on the Bandcamp site. I did the music also for Neofeud. If you liked all of that, okay. Neofeud. Okay, that's already been seen. Okay, here's a recent scene. In the Garden of New Eden, next to the Tree of Chrome Life, may you find eternal runtime. Deus Ex Arcadia Metallica. So if you speak Latin, you will have, there's a lot of Latinian, language, and there's also Spanish Mayak, and there's also, Frank English, which is a merger of French and English, to their horror, I'm sure, but I don't care. So, anyways, here's another in-game scene. Deus Ex, of course, Deus Ex is frequently one of my favorite games, and is also a reference point for Neofeud 2. And this is actually a scene in a very interesting part of the game that is very some people compared it to one of the Space Quest games, or one of the you have to dig through the wreckage to find holy relics and such. It's like one of those types of parts of the game. Okay, let's watch it.
Well, we're here. Now what?
In the Garden of New Eden, next to the Tree of Life, there you will find what you seek.
Oh, crankshafts. I hope I didn't hurt it.
What is that stuff the tree is leaking? It looks like motor oil, but it's glowing.
The organism appears unharmed. I believe it longs for you to suckle its milk.
What?
Gather its sap.
I didn't realize vegetables could long for anything.
You would be surprised, young relative. Trees have great dreams and lessons for us.
An aero vehicle of unknown make appears to have crashed here. The root system of the Tree of Life feeds on the iron, zinc, and silicates of the wrecked fuselage.
So what it is, if you like pushing outdated, defunct, real Dolby radios, you know, with the semi-functioning buttons. If you like, you know, clicking on all the buttons. If you like, some people actually, I'm not even joking. Some people like if you're the retro folks, you know, there's a you know, that's why people, there's a VHS scan line is like one of the, you know, top tips to increase your game sales by 200% for retro games, because, you know, there's never nostalgia for that. But there is this is a scene that has a lot of fun mystery solving and a lot of interesting or a lot of I think it's a Canticle for Leibowitz that has religious robots in the future, or is it? I know Primordia does. I think it was a reference to that. But there's kind of a post-apocalyptic sci-fi where groups of orders of religious robots carry on what remains of humanity's or the creator's operations. There's some references to that, and also, of course, Deus Ex Arcadium Attack literally refers to God. It literally means a god from the pastoral, serene nature of metal. So it's God from the Edenic garden, but metallic. Or it's also James Hetfield being put out to pasture in an old folks home playing Deus Ex. That is also what it could mean. That's not what it means. I'm joking. Okay, anyways, also, if you haven't checked it out, don't forget to check out Relooted as well. I already did a review on that. Look at the previous one of the previous videos about 2 weeks ago for that. Let me just check if there's any other new recent stuff I posted there. Also, shout out to thanks a lot to 180 Digi, who recently made a review video or a video essay on Neofeud 1 on the surreal dystopian point and click that you should play. When this person made this video, it actually is on YouTube about a week ago. I was actually, why am I suddenly getting like 30 plus more wish lists a day than usual? Is because this person made this video. So I mean, I really like, I can actually watch how people's other people who like appreciate the game or something that I do and create some kind of create content about Neofeud. And this is their channel, by the way. Oh yeah, it's already got like 2.1k views 9 days ago, and they only have 455 subscribers. So it's doing very well. And so once they put this video out, I think a lot of people that are the viewership are people who are probably pretty likely to play the game, so that helps a lot. So I mean, really, we rely. That's one thing is, you know, word of mouth, just fans, players, people who love the thing, people want to support the indie creator and of course in my case indie game creators work is like that's like one of the that's part of actually the I was talking about at the very beginning of this stream, a lot of the extra work that goes into being an indie game dev or indie creator of any kind is discoverability, visibility, the unwanted invisibility. Sometimes, right, you want to turn on your thermoptic cable and be invisible, but the unwanted invisibility, or you just don't dress up presenting the way the West expects you to present as a femme person, but then you become less visible. But but sometimes you actually want to be visible, and that can be difficult. So thanks a lot to all the people that are doing Let's Plays on YouTube or streaming on Twitch or sharing the game or reviewing the game. If you have a second to review Neofeud, it does help us out a lot. That literally also increases whether people will find it or not. And it's just a thing that we really appreciate. So I'm trying to make sure I'm trying to be a bit better about keeping up on who is and what accounts where on the internets and elsewhere are sharing Neofeud material to just try to pay some of that forward. So I mean that's really realistically how I think that a lot of things are going to keep working going forward, especially as a lot of the big corporations with fewer and fewer exceptions are not doing so well, and they've operated in pretty shady ways for a while. So I think that more games are going to be coming out this way. I think we talked last week on this channel about the bargain bin Walmart laptops. Games that can be played on bargain bin Walmart laptops are going to be the future. Indie games that are played on that are the future, and I think that probably is going to be the case. Anyways, so thanks for that. I think I already shared this one. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so there's actually more scenes I'm working on. I'm trying to get. Oh, here's one more. It actually has the same character, so I probably won't share the whole entire audio. But these are just some of the scenes that I recently finalized this past week. I'm trying to get one scene done every single day. I got to get one done today. And then at that rate, we should be able to get this. I should be able to get Neofeud 2 done in March and then get it out there. So there we go. Yeah. Okay, let me check the chat one more time and we should wrap this up. I don't really want to put Resident Evil big on the screen because Holly cannot see any. Holly has problems with. Holly will have some very bad experiences if Holly sees zombie content, especially virus-based zombies. And so I just want to put it up on the screen while I say my final words on it. Resident Evil is maybe not the end game. It is a very high quality TV show. With interactions though, there's lots of it's a very scary game if you play as Grace. It's very Resident Evil, but I'm speaking for someone who hasn't played Resident Evil for any of the games on the systems for 20 years. But what I experienced of Resident Evil Requiem, it's definitely a very solid Resident Evil entry, and apparently it's more action oriented, right? If you play as Leon, which I remember that as well, and you can kind of, which is nice. You can kind of choose. Do you want a more action-oriented experience, or do you want more of a very scary horror-oriented experience as the other character? And I know this is everyone's, I'm sure, talking this thing to death. But yeah, it looked like a lot of fun. I really like, again, as I mentioned already previously as well, I like all the Resident Evil movies for sure and the TV shows, and I have definitely played all the original PlayStation and some of the Dreamcast era games. So, it's not necessarily the same genre as Neofeud, but it's these are. I was just like, I should probably know something about this game because I am a game dev, so I gotta at least check it out. So I have checked it out, and even our kids, well, not our kids but our kids friends are talking about it and playing it. So I gotta know something about it, just so I can be like the Steve Buscemi, wearing the red hat, carrying the backpack and the skateboard, saying hello fellow kids. I also stand the Leon. Or wait, I'm in the wrong era. I'm also Team Leon. Okay, wait, still that's not the right thing. Hello, fellow kids. I am also Sigma Alpha with the Leon. No. Hello, fellow kids. I vibe to the Leon. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not trying to. That sounds a bit weird when I say it that way. I don't go up to kids on the street and go, "Hello, fellow kids." I'm joking. I don't do that. I'm just like, I know everyone's talking about it. Even not only kids. I know like all the discords I'm in. Everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I bought this for my wife." And she's really happy. I bought this for my wife for Valentine's Day. I heard that some like 50-year-old guy, like everyone, even like 50, 60-year-olds. I'm like, okay, I gotta know something about this. Anyways, that's Resident Evil. Okay. Comrade Internet says I have to carry 2 skateboards when I say it. Comrade Internet, I'm gonna grow 2 more arms, so I can be like Goro. And I'll carry 4 skateboards. Tony Hawk skateboards, longboards. And that'll be really cool, because all kids have 4 arms and carry skateboards nowadays. That's totally what kids do. So yeah, that's how you fit in, Grow a 4th arm from all the radiation you're consuming, and then carry 4 skateboards. These kids nowadays with their Nintendo Power Glove, kids with their, using their fax machines. I get you kids. There's that Gen X meme going around, like Gen X millennials don't remember the landline. That's the thing blew up on certain social media circuits. And it was like, who is any millennials here? Do you remember landlines? There's like millennials. You never had Walkmans and landlines. Apparently, that was the thing. So how I came across that, I was like, okay, let me crowdsource some information here. Let's crowdsource it. First? You gotta prove you're human. Okay, so click this rectangle to prove you're human. Okay, thanks. Now that you're not OpenAI fake people, do you remember landlines? Did you have Walkmans when you were young? If you're a millennial, just want to know. I just want to know for science, for anthropology. I remember landlines. The Commodore 64 is back. Okay, well there we go. So I mean, well at least one millennial remembers the landlines. I mean, it's I think it's kind of ridiculous. So it's like I'm like. We still have landlines right now. And also, yeah, it was like landline. All we had was landline. I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have a cell phone until I was already past, like, I think it was 18 or older. I was already like legally a grown up by the time I had not landline. It's anyway. I was walking around, back in my days, if you wanted to call the Raccoon City Police Department to help you with liquors and zombified crows and creepy blonde dudes with glasses like Albert Wesker. You have to call the umbrella. You have to call ACAT, but sometimes you gotta call the you gotta call your Resident Evil. You have the Resident Evil busters, and when I had to call Raccoon City Police, I had to call them, with my touch tone phone. At best, At best, it was a cordless phone, and I had to call Chris Redfield. Chris Redfield, help! There's crows with bloodshot eyes crashing through my freaking window. I called him on that cordless phone. I remember landlines. What are you talking about? You have to wait, right? I said, "Hey, little brother, stop playing Team Fortress so I can call Chris Redfield." The 14.4 modem can only call Chris Redfield. Or you can connect to the internet at once. Get off of the Doom deathmatch so I can call Chris Redfield. We're all gonna die from zombie crows. Anyway. I recall landlines. I don't think I had a Walkman, but I had a shitload of tapes in high school. I had a tape Walkman and a boombox and a tape deck. There we go. The suit that Wesker wears in Resident Evil Requiem looks nice. Okay, I gotta go check it out then. You can tell the era of the cool suits had begun. They were hinting at it in the New Game Plus in Resident Evil. This is the Silver Spook Stream Plus now. This is like extra, but he had the cool flames, and then by the time you got to like the mid to late noughties, I remember like this is a slightly not the same franchise, but the Deus Ex 3, Adam Jensen, like he had like the most elaborate floral embellished suits. Everyone had like 1400s Elizabethan inspired like ruffled cyberpunk wear. A lot of people like didn't like that. I think partially why people didn't like it because people who were not that fashionistas or were not that bisexual or queer or just appreciative, it had a different eye to it, and then I think they didn't like the fact that Paul Denton was supposed to have a more floral. He was supposed to have a more he was supposed to be kind of like he was supposed to signifying a bit more queerness. I think that was actually something that was actually part of the design notes, and they kind of toned it back. And then but by the time we get to the late noughties, there's some people with some very flamboyant suits. Some people with some very there's some very flamboyant protagonists and antagonists. Later on, and it was like they kind of they let it all they let the designers go full ham. They let the designers go full underworld. They let the designers go full Wachowskis. You know what I'm saying? Like later on. Okay. Anyways, I gotta wrap this up though. Speaking about the sartorial qualities of video games, let's move on to the end of the stream. Thanks everybody for watching. At Kovar.com/silverspook. I had a trench coat. I used to walk around Honolulu in 102% humidity in a very thick armored trench coat and sweated a lot. But I suffered for fashions. For the new metal fashion, the new metal era fashions. Anyways, you can support us at Ko-Fi.com/silverspook for all these jokes. Don't forget to tip your waitress. We don't really have cocktails here, but don't forget to help us out. You can also support us at patreon.com/neofeud, and of course you can give us ongoing support as well as get access to behind the scenes on what we're working on, like Neofeud 2. Of course you can just watch this YouTube channel as well, but also our environmental restoration, anti-colonial and anti-capitalist work, which includes growing curb appeal, Ponzi scheming real estate and turning it into real food gardens and feeding as many people as possible here at the Silver Spook Cooperative. We are also a Native Hawaiian-run cooperative here in Hawaii against U.S. occupation. All U.S. bases out, please. And also restoring our trade centers, our systems of non-capitalist resource management and exchange. And if you want to help us in any or all of that work, as well as making these YouTube videos and jokes about crows and other things, you can also help us out and also get access to Silver Spook Discord and the Silver Spook University, which is over 1,000 hours of the content we have produced here, categorized by topics from economics, historical, political. I used to do a lot more like educational analysis, like talking about various topics, specifically talking about these topics. And there's like years of this already. And so there's over 1,000 hours of it. And from artificial intelligence, science fiction, indigenous futurism, I'm an indigenous person. And of course also Africa, Asia, Central South America, North America, and the Pacific focused history, as well as race and gender focused topics, and a lot more. And anyways, if you want to grab that, you can become a Patreon. You can also grab Neofeud 2, which is on sale. So don't forget to run, skip, flip, walk awkwardly, like in Resident Evil 1, towards Steam and get Neofeud. Actually, we'll walk a little faster than in Resident Evil 1 because, it's the sale only lasts for the next a week or two. So yeah, don't forget, Neofeud 2 is going to be on sale for the next little bit. So grab it. And every sale does help us out at the Silver Spoon Cooperative. I am the writer, programmer, artist, musician, and half the voice acting on this game. So consider grabbing it. And of course, also, especially if you like retro cyberpunk adventure games. And if you like the game, don't forget to leave even a very short review, because it does help the game get discovered in the Steam algorithm. And thanks to Pinky Magoo for playing Neofeud and leaving a review. A fantastic point-and-click adventure game, deep, well-written story with rich characters, hand-drawn art that really lends itself to illustrating the world of Neofeud. I was really vibing with this game. So, thanks a lot for reviewing it. And if you do have a second to do it, it does help get the game discovered in the Steam algorithm. So, also there's of course Neofeud Decolonators, which is we're talking about Thatcher. In this game, you literally are you upset that your country and many organizations that you are in or around are waging a terrible war of aggression right now in an occupied country to control global resources and economy? In Decolonators, you play the side of the Vietnamese fighting against a imperial global occupier starting a war of aggression to control resources and prevent the spread of communism and socialism to maintain global capitalism. So if you want to play that game, it's called Decolonators, and we made it with our comrade Luna Oi, who is also a Vietnamese woman and YouTube a content creator, and is working on a series of books to educate people on the problems of a capitalist system itself, which they have standard in their formal curriculum in Vietnam, if you didn't know that. And of course, Indigenous Star is also a game that is between Neofeud 1 and 2, and it's a science fictional game where an empire arises to eradicate and plunder, and you must heal the land and people and prevent erasure of your native language or culture and confront invaders before it's too late. And there's, of course, also this book collections like Neofeud Short Story Collection, and Pigeon with Gun is like, this is my retro side-scrolling, just chill-out game. You do fight tons of cops, gajillionaires, and military industrial complex a-holes inside of giant robots, but it's also it is a side-scrolling shooter, Pigeon with Gun. And there's also a short story collection of Neofeud Terminus Machina, which I wrote, and Holly wrote this book, Woman, which is about surviving the horror. Speaking of survival horror, Woman is survival horror of surviving the horror of right-wing Christian culture and Christian fundamentalist upbringing in the perspective of Mary from the Bible. Anyways, you can also follow all over the place on Blue Sky, on Twitter, and Mastodon, and many other places. If you want to follow our social media posts, look for Silver Spook Games or Silver Spook Guy for my personal takes, and games for more game-related stuff. There's also you can follow Holly at Allergic to Blue. Holly is also on Instagram and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And let's just there we go. And Holly's always, of course, doing very important work here at the Silver Spoon Cooperative and helping us to moderate and drop important information, doing lots of management. Holly had to wake up many days because we're having car issues, and it's been rough. So Holly's been putting a lot of work and time and not getting enough sleep, but for several days to help with all these other tasks that need to be done around here. Good news is that we'll still have some transportation to get basic needs. But anyways, yeah. So thanks a lot to Holly, and of course, thanks to all of our Patreon patrons for your ongoing support. Without Patreon patronage, and it's a bit harder for us to keep doing this work. Oh, thanks also to Monogatete for, I think Monogatete is still on this list. Monogatete for being a Patreon Silver Spook patron. Monogatete has been a supporter for a while, but has recently re-upped or rejoined. I'm not sure. So thanks a lot. And yeah, consider becoming one. It really does. We really rely on the support to keep doing the work that we do. So there we go. Okay, anyways, until next time, keep mirror shades polished to be excellent to each other. Dodge those zombies. Watch out for the crows. In real life, you can crows are pretty nice, but when they bust through the window and it's really dark, oh my gosh, it's a jump scare, quintuple heart attack, knock on wood. Just watch out for crows in video games. That's what can I say. Okay, and yeah. Actually, let me check the chat one last time just in case I missed somebody's thing. I'm trying to pay more attention. I know I'm not succeeding every time, but let me just double check and make sure I didn't miss nobody. Okay, yeah. Until next time, have a good one.